Ahoy, gents! Exclamation point. I do like the idea that we're sort of nautical explorers in the technology realm. With a recent tension between Nvidia and outlets reviewing 50 series GPUs without DLSS or frame gen enabled, despite the majority of players using them, do you think Nvidia might ever hard lock these features, making them mandatory, just as no user turns on or off their CUDA cores or clock scaling to enforce favorable gen-on-gen comparisons? Is this a realistic concern, and might it even be a better way to implement these technologies? One way this could work would be setting a frame rate target, and then the GPU dynamically applies DLSS and frame generation as necessary. Just to weigh in from my perspective here, this isn't what PC gaming is about. PC gaming is about offering more options, not fewer options. There could be some sort of, a fire and forget default thing that could happen. I'm not sure you could set a target frame rate, especially with frame generation, just because of the way the technology works. That's probably not the route forward. But this concept of reviewers reviewing GPUs without using the features, that's an old chestnut that we've talked about at length on many directs at this point. John, what do you think?
I think in those cases, results should also always be presented both in sort of in isolation. Like, here's the results with this feature. This is what you can get. Here's the results without this feature. I think both are important, and it shouldn't. I don't like the idea of comparing something using a special feature versus something else that's not. I don't know. It just feels like kind of pointless to a degree. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, if you're because you're not really comparing apples to apples anymore, and it doesn't really help understand how it. Because even if you're using those features all the time, which many people will, it's still valuable information and interesting information to know how it compares to doing the same task but without that feature, right? It just gives you a baseline understanding of what the tech is capable of. And so I just think you should always group together things based on the correct feature set rather than trying to mix and match stuff. I never got along with putting frame gen results with non-frame gen results because it's just two separate things you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only reason to do that is if you want to call out an apples to orange scenario on purpose.
Right.
Like you want to say like, oh, I can actually use ray reconstruction in this game, and that there isn't a competing technology for other vendors. And like that's where you would say the test, and that's less a numbers test, and that's more like a call out. Right. And
exactly.
That's not a bar chart at that point. So it's a different type of testing that GPU reviews tend to not do. Yeah.
But just bar charts alone just aren't interesting anymore and don't really tell the whole story anyway. It's like you can use them as like part of your like presentation, but I feel like just presenting bar charts is kind of useless because there's too much context and too many variables now with modern PC gaming.
Well, my point on this, we've talked about the anti-benchmark concept before, which is where you play games as you would using the features of those specific cards and include variables like latency, etc., which a lot of people aren't doing. We're trying to do that. A few things I'd like to say about that is if you want custom testing, as I'm finding with my recent reviews, you need to give us more time because a week to review a graphics card, factoring in, production of data. You need a lot of data. Users want more data, which ironically still gives you pretty much the same sort of outlook as you'd have with less data. We cover far fewer games than a lot of other outlets, but typically you get the same kind of ballpark results. But even so, the more testing someone like Nvidia or AMD wants us to do, the more time we need. It's that simple. Not everyone has like 70 people in a lab like Linus does. All of the GPUs reviews I do myself. And the automated benchmarking system that we built it simply in order to keep up. But we're going to need more time if you want to showcase features like DLSS for frame generation and whatnot. Otherwise, you just stick to the basics, and the basics don't include frame generation. So give us 2 weeks, not one. You'll get a better review. And I bet you that driver is ready. There's always this concept of we're waiting for the driver. Why are we waiting for the driver? I suspect we're waiting for the driver because AMD, Nvidia might be worried about results leaking. But that's the part of the calculus you make in giving us time to do a review. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like this idea of target frame rates and but it's kind of nebulous in this kind of era where there are so many different screens with different refresh rates. Which one do you target?